Namaste and welcome to Satsang. So tonight we're going to go through part 2 of, last week we started a 2-part satsang, which seeing and being. And last week we went through some ways, some methods to recognize what you actually are, what you really are in truth. Some simple ways, when done consistently, that will have a profound effect upon your life. And really last week we focused on the seeing, how to recognize, because it's not immediately obvious how to look for something that you can't see with your eyes and you can't hear with your ears. And tonight I want to look at the other side of our spiritual practice, which is the being part of it, meaning how do we be what we've seen ourselves to be. So there should be this ever deepening seeing, more and more recognition of what you are, and then the application of that, the assimilation of that relative to something that comes up. And most of the work that I'm doing with people and in my own pathway is around this being part. And it really serves us to know and to look at what is it that seems to stop us from being this self that we are. What is it that makes our mind, our egoic sense of self, so noisy? And what can we do about it? Can we look at our egoic sense of self with the growing wisdom of what we're seeing ourselves to be, the clarity of that, right where we are right now, and see why it's making all this noise and why its problems never quite seem to get fixed. So everybody's mind speaks at some point, and usually if you're anything like I was, it's just pretty much talking constantly from usually before I even open my eyes in the morning till, you know, way after I was trying to go to sleep at night. And there is a splinter, a virus, if you will, in the mind. And this is what I want to look at today, because when you come to understand this clearly, then you can step back from the thinkingness, get some distance from the thinkingness, to understand why your mind isn't the most valuable tool, without rejecting it, without making it wrong, going to war with it, is going to really shift your experiential being of this real self. So I want to talk about causality tonight, and I would just ask you, if you've heard me speak about it before, to just listen with an open, blank slate, as if you've never heard anyone say anything about it ever. And maybe you haven't, maybe this is the first time. However much we've heard it, it's good to hear it again. And I also want to say, before I start to go into it, this is not something your mind is going to understand. You know, if you listen to this now and you feel a bit confused as I'm talking about it, that's what's supposed to be happening. It's fine. Your mind doesn't need to understand what I'm going to say, but it'll just immediately start to be assimilated in your life, you'll see. And it's not anything, anyone's personal flaw. Even if I tried to understand now causality with my mind, it would be confusing. It can only be understood by the real self that you are, and something inside will know and begin to act upon what I say tonight. Even if your mind is kind of scratching your head going, what? You know, I don't know really what was said by that. And it's not necessary that you understand. Your job is just to listen and to be curious as to, you know, to what that is like, to assimilate it. So what is it that pulls us out of peace? We're recognizing clearer and clearer what we are. What is it that makes our attention automatically go to some thoughts, some feelings, some experiences? What is that means that sometimes we can just not look at thoughts, not engage with them, and other thoughts seem to be like flypaper, like Velcro? We just immediately attention goes to them and we experience those thoughts. If we can dive into why this is happening and begin to tonight to take apart our noisy mind, our egoic sense of self, which I'm using synonymous terms, at least in this satsang, then we can really begin to move forward. All of us are listening to our mind still, because deep down we feel it has an answer for us to fix a problem that seems to be there. So all of us have things going on in our life, our relationships, our career, our finances, our even our spiritual pathway, that we are sure that mind's suggestions of how to fix them are correct. And when we come to really look at this, we can begin to see that this isn't true. So without making mind wrong, we can just see it's not an effective way to resolve the issues in our lives. So causality is a side effect. Thinking and cause and effect is a side effect of believing in duality. So right now, whether you know it or not, whether you live like it or not, you are actually the one being. There is only you everywhere, all the time. There has never been anything other than you, and there will never be anything other than you. All of this, the universe, is your body, your form, and you are constantly appearing in endless new shapes, and you can never take the same shape twice. Now that is true whether you're living like that or whether you're living as a separate being still. And you don't have to have assimilated that and become that before you can understand what I'm saying. In fact, looking at causality, cause and effect thinking, is how to actually come to know. Everyone always says, but I don't feel like I'm everywhere. Don't really get that sense. This is how to come to live as that, which is why it's the being part. So you're everywhere all the time, and then you have this human body, and in this human body arises a sense of I that wasn't there before, at least in thought. And suddenly there seems to be two versions of you. There seems to be your everywhereness and your somewhereness, your someoneness. And over time, we forget that we're everywhere because we're focusing on thoughts and feelings. We really feel like we're only here. And the outcome of that is that this is all I am. We may be convinced of that. And we believe that everything else in the universe is outside of us, separate to us, different to us. So the sense of duality arises right there. There's me, and then there's other. And I'm constantly interacting in my life with all these other beings, other events, other situations, other things, having a relationship with them. And this is just simply not true. So what keeps our mind thinking? And it's really this idea that one thing can cause another thing to happen. It's an idea that comes out of the sense of duality, that there's me here, I can cause something to happen out there to make a change in my life. Or the reverse that we do, when my experience has turned the right way up, when my experience looks like I want it to look like, that's the cause. And the effect will be, I feel peaceful in here. But if you are actually, in reality, everywhere, and what is out there is not actually separate to you, then trying to change out there or in here is only going to serve to increase the sense of duality, to make you feel more divided than you feel yourself to be already. So there must be a more intelligent way to resolve the issues that we're having in our life. Nothing ever in this universe has caused anything else to happen. As astounding as that may seem, and as untrue as it may seem, that is how reality is. Because there is only one thing. A cause and an effect are two things. What keeps our mind spewing out these thoughts that we then experience the emotions of, and the actual experience of it happening, is this sense that we can make a change, we can cause something to happen. Now bear with me as we're talking about this, because your mind isn't going to like it. Your mind's going to say, well, this is going to leave me powerless to not fix anything. I've just, and you're telling me to put my head in the sand and just let my issues and those around me just leave them alone and not try to fix them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that going about fixing our lives, healing our inner environment, the way that our mind is suggesting is not going to work. And you know this already. We have the same experience over and over again with different people sometimes, but the same experience of not enough of something, whether that is peace, not enough peace, not enough joy, not enough clarity, not enough awakening, not enough money, not enough time, not enough energy, not enough compassion, not enough self-love. All of this goes on and on and on, no matter what we try to do to fix it. So if you can accept, at least theoretically, that the cause and the effect must be the same, and remember, you don't have to understand this. Just it going in through your ears is doing something amazing. The cause and the effect are the same one. So I cannot do anything here. My actions, my words, my thoughts are not causing a change out there. And there is nothing out there that can change how I feel in here, because that would be two things. And it works on the assumption that out there, my world is actually separate to me, and I'm doing something that can change it. So I'm going to use some real life examples from my own karmic patterns to hopefully help illustrate this and make it more obvious. Again, you do not have to understand what I'm saying at all. If you were listening to some music, you wouldn't be trying to understand, you'd just be listening. And that's the best place to take this in from. So, mind is sure that cause and effect are different, two things. In reality, there is only one thing appearing as all of this, appearing as all of your thoughts and emotions and experiences. Everyone else isn't everything else. So going the way that our mind tells us to go, it is not going to work. So let's have some examples to make it clearer. The thing that my karmic patterns always played out around money, the first one, and not having enough money. The first thing that we all try to do is to take some action to, if I work more, if I get a better, if I build my business, I get a better job, it's going to bring more money in. And you see, this works, this idea, for all of us when we believe that we're a separate being, because it's true. The more you wake up and begin to see what you are as this formless silence, it's less and less true for you. So this is why we're still trying to fix our problems from cause and effect thinking, causality. It's why some areas of our life are getting worse, perhaps, the more awake we're getting. So we have to look at this causality thinking. Is there anything I can do to make this happen, to make a change, to bring more money in? Well, if I am the same as the money, the same one thing, cause and the effect are the same, can I get the money? Can I earn it? Can I do anything to receive it even? And again, this is 180 completely from how the rest of the world thinks. Doesn't make that wrong. I'm just telling you how reality actually functions. But there will be this resistance to your mind to kind of accepting this, which you don't even need it to accept it. So I may try harder to work longer, to work smarter, to bring more money in. But if I'm trying to do that from a dualistic place where the cause, me here, is seen to be different than the effect, the money, it's only going to make it worse. Any actions I take from that false idea where I've divided myself into two is not going to work. It works for a separate being who really feels they're separate, but not for you as you're waking up. And then most of us get spiritual, get on the pathway, and we say, okay, if I do more meditation, if I do more self-inquiry, if I do more satsang, then that waking up here is going to cause more money to come in, abundance to come in out there. Which feels nicer, feels more empowered, but it is still from this cause and effect. My spiritual work here being the cause and the effect being more abundance coming in. So how do we fix this from the real place? What do we do if we're looking at our experience and there isn't enough? And you could put anything here. I'm obviously using money as the example, but it could be time, it could be energy, it could be respect, it could be patience, anything. Firstly, to realize the cause and the effect are the same. So no amount of money coming in can cause me to feel better than I do now. And the absence of money right now cannot cause me to feel bad. That's what the mind is sure is happening, but we have to really begin to slow down and examine this. Is the absence of money really making me feel unsafe, limited, powerless? Or is it just the sense that I feel separate to it that's disturbing me? Is it the idea that I need something when I am really the infinite one who's everywhere that's disturbing me? And what happens if we refuse to agree that we need anything, even though our experience is telling us, even though our emotions are telling us? What happens if we refuse to believe even subtle things that are like peace? I need more peace. Right now I feel disturbed. I'm obviously not peaceful. I'm going to go meditate so that I feel more peaceful, or I get to a better place, I get back in balance. Again, you are the cause there and the effect is peace. It cannot happen. The very attempt to meditate from that place will only disturb you more because you will feel divided from the peace that's here. So as amazing as it may sound, and as much as the rest of the world accepts causality thinking is true, to fully wake up, you're going to have to come out of this. Peace is available in any moment. The abundance that we want is available in any moment if we refuse to agree that something can cause us to feel a certain way. There is nothing that can happen that can cause you to feel a certain way. It can only stimulate thoughts that when believed make you feel a certain way. So the thought that you need something is going to disturb you and divide you into two in your experience. And what you need or want could be anything at all. As we said, it could be something tangible, it could be finding the right soulmate, it could be getting a new job, it could be something very intangible like awakening itself. I need to wake up to get out of suffering. That's the ultimate place we get stuck in cause and effect, causality. But that very statement is saying that it is not here right now. You are omnipresent and everywhere. You are reality. And when you say in your energy, I need or I want, that is the root cause of your suffering, of everyone's suffering. The sense of otherness, the sense of duality comes into play in that moment. And that's why desire often feels bad to us, because we feel divided from the thing that we want or need. So we can look at what we seem to want or need and begin to question, is it true that it's not here right now? If you are feeling disturbed, are you willing to question if peace isn't actually here right now? Because our mind will say, well, of course it's not here, and your emotions will be sure it's not here. but you are the infinite source of all that is. You are everything in potential, and you are manifesting, appearing as everything in actuality. What determines how you appear, whether you feel peaceful or not, is which ideas you are filtering your intelligence through, your light through. So we can look at our experience to transcend this causality. What is it I seem to need or want? And it could be, I want this person to respect me more. You know, I'm just tired of being treated this way. But again, if we look at why we want that, it's because we want to feel better. When I feel respected, mine says I'll feel better. And again, this is from the assumption that I'm the one feeling bad right now. I need respect. Respect is how I feel better. Instead, you can turn that around and say, well, is it really true I feel bad right now? Is it really true I need anything right now? Is it really true even that I can be disturbed? You know, if you want to really catch it all, can I actually suffer what I really am? Can it suffer? And in that undoing of an assumption, then peace will be evident in this moment. Your inner environment will be restored back to a harmony. What if it isn't anything out there at all that's ever disturbed you? What if it's your thoughts about those things? And specifically now, as you're waking up, the sense that you can be separate from something that you want or need. Maybe that is the root cause of all that has disturbed us. And you can prove this right now to yourself. The very moment you chase enlightenment, you feel extremely unenlightened. Have you noticed that? And when you've accidentally slipped into the natural state is when you really weren't trying to cause anything to happen. It just came upon you. Because for that moment you weren't engaging in this dualistic thinking. There seems to be two. It seems like the work I did caused a profound shift in my level of consciousness, but I know that isn't the case. I simply stopped agreeing it wasn't here already, and I did that consistently. And I simply stopped agreeing there was anything I want or need, even when my experience was contradicting that and my emotions were contradicting that. If you can make a stand in the true place that doesn't want or need anything, and not agree that you need, even if your experience is screaming at you, then you'll be back in the non-dual place where causality no longer applies, and your experience will naturally right itself because you are not declaring that you need something in this moment. So you probably don't realize just how powerful you are, being the infinite source of the universe, but if you say, I need, then you're declaring it's not, even obviously it may not be saying it out of our mouth, but our energy is saying it. I don't have is what you're saying. When you say I want or I need, you're stating it's not here right now. Maybe it's already here right now, but it looks like fear, and your refusal to agree that it's not here, that you needed something, is going to transmute it into peace. Manifestation is always showing up as something, even empty space. It cannot not show up. It's got to appear as something, and what shapes that is what you are agreeing with inside yourself. So your body may still take some actions, but they won't be the cause of, you know, I get a new job, more money comes in, but there's no sense that the job was the cause of that. It's the shift to a higher level of living from your true self, where there's only one. Your abundance, how much abundance you have and experience effortlessly, is directly proportional only to your level of consciousness. How much causality thinking is going on is going to limit that abundance in its expression. Why? Because you're seeing clearer and clearer that you're not two. You're not divisible. You're not limited. You're not finite. And you're not doing anything. The more you see that, the silence that we accessed last week, the awareness, It's not doing anything. So we're going to undo. When you look at these patterns that come up now, as they come back up, you can look, where is the cause and effect here? What am I trying to change? What am I stating that I need or want? And it could be that I need something to go away, or I'm trying to get something, or it could be that I need my inner experience to change. I need to be more peaceful, more awake. I need to let go more. I need to surrender more. Whatever we're stating we want or need, absolutely, it may happen temporarily, but the experience has to go back upside down again at some point. So this may seem completely to be going over your head. It may be obviously and logically understood. It may seem like that's just so different to how the rest of the world thinks. But it is only what's actually true. You never actually divided yourself into two. So causality, thinking that you can do something to change something else, or that something else can change you, presence or absence of something or someone can change how you feel. It's not true. Everything that you're trying to change about your world is really to help yourself feel better. Even if you want to help another being so they feel better, it is really still causality. If I help this other being, they'll feel better. Cause and effect. Can it work from there? And can it work the more you wake up? Instead, I'd really just like to see clearly what this being really is. You'll see it's the same essential essence as yourself. And in that seeing, something wonderful can happen with that other being, because you are not dividing your infinite power. You're not lessening your infinite power through this causality thinking. It's the sense of other that causes us to suffer. The sense that there's something other than me is the root cause of all of our suffering. And if you can begin to scan through your life right now, if you think of one area where your life isn't flowing at all, or it keeps blowing up in this same old experience of not enough of something, whether that's patience or peace or money or energy or health, it's the same old thing over and over again. What if you just step out of the things that you're trying to do, the ideas that say you can fix this old way, and begin to recognize clearly inside, I'm not separate to the thing I want. I can't be. So can I do anything to get it? And does it make any sense to want it or need it? So when you see these patterns that come up, you understand the causality that's playing in them, then automatically you'll see the way mind is trying to fix problems becomes less and less relevant to you. And that's how that's how an awakened being just doesn't listen to their mind. Not making it wrong, they're just seeing that all of mind's solutions are functioning in duality. There's nothing wrong with a sense of duality. And you'll still have a sense of being someone even after you're fully awakened. But it will be a very light thing, and you'll know that everything else is not really other than you. Everything else is not really separate to you. So when these patterns come up, we can examine them with the light of what we've seen, that nothing can cause anything. And again, as hard as that is to believe, that is what has always been occurring. Nothing has ever caused anything. There's mechanisms how things unfold in manifestation. But there is no cause and effect. And when you recognize this virus, this splinter in the mind that keeps dividing it into two, mind keeps taking the one being that you are and dividing it into two. And that's why we feel bad when we're suddenly drawn back to mind, to ego. Mind, ego cannot see that what I'm saying is true, but you can if you take it and examine it. Even when your experience is really shouting at you that you need something or you want something, are you going to agree with that in this moment? Are you going to say, well, let me find out actually if I need anything, if I want anything. And I've had countless experiences of this in my life, desperately wanting something, awakening being the final thing. And then when I realized I don't want it, actually, it shows up, because I'm no longer dividing myself from it and putting this energetic barrier between me and the thing I want. So sense of desire arises inside you is fine, but you don't have to say, I want. Something wants. Life is expanding through desire, the feeling of more, and that's fine. Manifestation is always expanding, but you don't have to go into division about it. You don't have to separate yourself from what you really want. So every time I talk about causality, I get a little, I never quite feel as if I hit the nail on the head, but I'll keep trying every time. So I'd just like to say again that you don't have to understand this. It's already having an effect just to hear. The satsang isn't causing you to wake up. Self-inquiry isn't causing you to wake up. It's a mechanism, but it's not the cause. It's part of the manifestation, the unfolding process. So have a look at your life. Have a look at what you're sure you need, which will only be suggested by your emotions or your experiences, which are actually symptoms of this division. What if fear was a symptom of division? What if all negative emotion was coming from this sense that we're separate to other things? What if that was actually what's making you feel bad? And simply to question that consistently would bring unbroken peace. Then you wouldn't feel like you wanted or needed anything. And then there'd be no energetic barriers at all vibrationally between you and what your body needs in this moment, what you would like in this moment. And it will just come to you. Okay, so if anybody would like to share or ask a question about what we've spoken about tonight, or to anything at all about satsang awakening in general, you can, a few hands up already. You can click on participants and click on the raise hand, and it will let me know that you want to ask a question. So we'll go to Helen first.
Hiya, can you hear me?
How you doing?
Hiya. Good. So I think I get it, and then I just don't get it at all.
That's good. That's good. It's working then.
So my big one is time.
Yeah.
Constantly feeling I don't have enough time, and I have a big project to produce for Monday, and it just happened this week. I'm on a meditation retreat, and the first couple of days, the mind was so upset, like, you've got to do this, you don't have time. And what I've noticed is I've just kind of sat with it and just ignored it. That now I've done some meditation for a few days, that voice isn't there.
Yeah.
There's just peace. However, there is a definite belief that I would do a much better job if I had worked on this project for this whole week.
Yeah.
And so that's how it sort of pulls me back in. It's like, we can't really deny if you'd worked on it harder. And then I sort of ask, well, is it true it will be better if I worked on it 7 days rather than 3?
Yeah.
But that's where I kind of get stuck.
So there's a sense the cause being you doing the work on it, and the effect being the quality of the project, did you say?
Yeah.
So can that really be true if you're not separate? If you, that human body there, and the project are just 2 ways that you can appear out of the infinite number of forms, and really made of the same essence, can it be true that to put more time into it, it is going to make a better result? The real thing that makes you feel bad is not the sense that you should be putting more time in, it's that you feel separate to it. Our mind goes, of course I'm separate to a project, you know, like a human being. It's just bonkers. But if to live as the one is to recognize that it's all you, even if it's an intellectual recognition at first, this is how it comes to be an experiential one. What evidence do you have that you are actually separate from this finished project? Really, we don't have any, except to say it looks different to me and it feels different to me, the appearance of it, whether it's on a computer or a paper or something. You know, we don't really have any distinct evidence that we're separate to anything other than a feeling, a sense of being divided, which we agree with, and that lowers our energy in the body. And then we describe that lowered frequency as some stress or negative emotion.
So is it that there is, if I was to take it deeper, that there's a belief here that I'm not high quality, that
You're not
I'm
what,
reflecting
sorry?
high quality? You know, like maybe there's some worth thing that it's, if
Well,
I understood that everything is perfect as is, it wouldn't require.
What are you actually doing? You know, are you the one working on this project, or is that your body and your mind? What is the awareness doing, or the silence or the stillness?
Yeah, that's not doing anything.
So can it be true then that to work harder on it is going to be the solution, or work longer on it is going to be the solution, or it's going to affect its quality? The idea is true if you're a separate being, isn't it? And that you function in time. Can you get a sense of it?
Yeah.
But maybe the quality of it is going to be a direct result of how separate you feel to it. If you're peaceful in here, then your experiences out there are also going to have to agree with your peace, which means things happening and unfolding in ways that agree with your peace and add to your peace. It seems a strange thing to say, I'm not separate from this project, but you know, give it a try. Am I really separate from it? Can I really do anything to make it better? You know?
Okay.
And if you're not doing anything, is time even a factor? You know, is what mind is saying actually going to work? You know, that's something to ponder.
Yeah, and the mind says, well, then you just sit around doing nothing all day. But no, I think if I sat with what you said,
then the body's freed of this sense of division and can actually function way more efficiently. Get the same amount of work done in 3 hours that it would have taken us 10 hours to do from a place of all this noisy mind stuff going on.
It's very appealing.
Yeah, everything just gets done at a higher level, no fuss, and whatever the outcome of it is, you know that it's going to have to agree with how you're feeling inside. So if you're feeling stressed and rushed, your experience will have to agree with that. If you're feeling peaceful and content, the finished product is going to have to agree with that. You know.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Ronald?
Hey, Helen.
Hi, how are you doing?
And Helen, and the other Helen, it reminds me of the title of the book, The 4-Hour Workweek. Is that's what you were trying to get toward?
I read that a few times, and I tried to really understand how. And you know, some of the greatest, the richest beings of all time have worked very few hours. And I'm like, hang on a minute, how does that work?
Well, it's like you get ready to go on vacation. You know, I remember so many times when I had a job, it was like there were so many things that need to be done that last afternoon before I left. And it was amazing. It all got done. And generally speaking, the quality of the work was just as good or better. So so many times I thought to myself, well, you know, why can't I just kind of make that happen when I'm not going out of town?
Yeah, it's because you weren't agreeing with the sense that you were doing something. Your thoughts were elsewhere. You weren't agreeing with the idea that you have to get this done. You know, so it naturally comes from a higher place then, because you're not divided from it. It has to, you know, be. It just happens. We call it in the flow or something like that, but in the zone. But it's where we're not divided. We're not thinking about it too much.
Just one other observation that I'd like to get your comment on, and then one additional question. A group that I paid to belong to for a long period of time investigated a lot of different things, more traditional manifestation or just high quality of life and getting your priorities straight. And one of the things that we did that it had us do based on, peer reviews and experience is actually to schedule time off. Wouldn't say just to think, actually not to think.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of us at that point in time that had extremely busy work schedules, I'd take a day and just go fly fishing. Or I'd go and do something that never in my entire life, of course I was my own boss, so I could do that, but I can imagine my boss saying, hey, I really want to be productive today. I want to go fly fishing. But what was amazing is the ideas that arose, the things that just came without even trying to think about them, whether on the drive or there, were the little things that, when changed and implemented, made the biggest differences in my company.
Yeah. And
it was so, I think is what you're saying, just in the more the secular vernacular, maybe, but it was very, very interesting. So I know what you're talking about from a different experience, but I'm looking forward to continuing that. Being a former master goal setter and manifester, one of which I am not at all now, by the way, I find myself kind of, I wouldn't say stuck, but have a little conundrum to some degree, and that is, I know wanting anything is the confession that you don't have it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So does that just mean you don't set any goals and objectives at all under any circumstances? Do you have a desire you express? And so many times we're working on things like, do I desire to awaken? Well, I've been trying to work on that wording to something I can feel comfortable and honest about. And the only thing I can get to is I want to live the full experience of what I am, of truth.
Yeah.
But there's that word want again. So just your thoughts, is there a way to position this that's really true, but still doesn't put me or us in the world of cause and effect?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I wrestled with it myself, because without the desire for awakening, none of us would be in satsang in the first place. But eventually it comes to, has to be let go of. It's probably the last desire we really have, but eventually it's going to cause you to feel divided. If you recognize how manifestation, the self is always appearing, the unmanifest is appearing as the manifest, the same one. And the appearance is, it's the appearance of the entire universe, which is always expanding, always growing, always evolving into more. So if you recognize that without filtering reality through our thoughts, naturally what happens is what shows up next is better than what was before. That's just the natural state. And as this becomes more clear, that when I just get myself out of the way, then whatever shows up is much better than anything I could cook up anyway in my own imagination. Then there is a natural letting go of, I've done the vision boards, I've done the visualizing, I've done the affirmations and everything, and it just never really seemed to work. Then when I just kind of got out of, in fact, it made it worse, horrendously worse, because I was emphasizing that I was separate to these things. If manifestation is always improving anyway, then it's much more fun from the awakened place to just see what shows up. Mm-hmm. If you take the best thing you can imagine, what wants to happen is already better than that, something we cannot possibly conceive of. For you, for your life, for all of our lives. And if you realize that's how the natural state is manifesting, an absence of desire. To hold desire in the right way, to really answer your question, if you see that desire is the symptom of it already in manifestation rather than the cause, then, because mind says, but this thing isn't going to show up unless I really want it. Unless I want it, that's the cause mindset of it happening. If I didn't want this thing so badly, it wouldn't have ever shown up. But it's exactly the opposite. It's, you can say, okay, if I'm feeling that I want it in here, it must already be a reflection of what's manifesting out there. And maybe if I just don't hold this desire too tightly, that's going to allow this process to happen faster. You know, it's where we get stuck is the idea that desire is the cause of something manifesting, and that without it, it's not going to happen. In reality, it's the opposite. You don't have to get rid of the sense of desire. You just treat it like if any emotion arose, you just be with it. You just be with the desire when it arises, and it will pass. And that's your work then in that moment. You know, it's coming already. But because we believe in cause and effect, we believe we're the one doing something, wanting it to make it happen. So you can just allow that to, okay, that's not how reality actually works. You see the desire as a symptom of it in progress, a result, an effect of it in progress, if you will.
Yeah,
Does that give you something to work with?
Yeah. No, that's actually very confirming, because that's really where I'm at. Because I, you know, you're preaching to the choir. There's a phrase I heard actually from a traditional religious preacher that I just think is so spiritual, is that it says God, I'll say the universe always brings about the best possible result by the best possible means for the most possible people for the longest possible time. Always.
Yeah.
Always, under
Absolutely.
every circumstance. If that's true, then, you know, I can only get in the way. You know.
Yeah. How is my desire? How is holding on to my desire, more importantly, going to help?
Yeah.
You know, and when you see that, there's a kind of relaxation of, actually, I'm just watching this movie of my life, and it's going to get better. Why it isn't doing in some places, because we're still really holding on to some thought around it that's, it can't stop the manifestation, but it can hold it at bay. You know, I don't have is going to just hold it right out of our experience in that moment, you know, ad infinitum. But what's always manifesting is the highest thing. And the symptom, the feeling of desire, is the universe wanting to move that way. You know, there never was a separate being that wanted something. When I feel I want, it's not Helen wants, it's the universe wanting to expand in manifestation. It's that powerful, isn't it? And all that God can do is to appear in the highest possible way. And they've proved that through things like the observer effect and things like that, that when we poke our noses into it, something different shows up. I'm not talking about walking around with your head in the sand, but just to recognize there isn't really a you that's wanting it. And the fact that that feeling is there is because it's trying to happen. And you can feel the stronger the desire, the more we're holding back this manifestation with our thoughts. You can feel there's a kind of lot of energy there behind it, you know.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good question. Vidya?
Namaste, Helen.
Hiya, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, it's really exciting because after I had a one-to-one with you once before around business and that, I really was just questioning, you know, is there really anything that I could want? And I find myself sometimes, I might be standing in my room and I'm looking at some products and I'm drawn to particular ones, and I don't think anything, I just get on with my day. And all of a sudden I'll get an order in for someone that wants to buy 4 of them. And then something else might pop into my mind very subtly, the most subtlest. And again, it's just not thinking about it. And I'll get 2 of them.
Yeah.
You know, 2 pamper packages, and it's you know, what you're talking about is just so true, that the less you want or need, and just be, it's just happening. And I think when I first had that conversation, I started to look at, before it all started happening more and more, was I looked at the things that you didn't try to change or control anyway. Things would just show up that you didn't expect, or so that was sort of proof in a way that it's always been running its own show anyway. You've never had control over anything. What happened? So that was a real big help as well, to see that, you know, it's got to be true that, you know, I can't be controlling anything at all. So sometimes there's a subtle knowing, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. But it's exciting then, isn't it? Because you know if you know what you want to happen, then you're limiting the manifestation that can occur to what you're imagining. It can't be any higher than that. If you figure, all right, what's the highest thing that wants to happen in this area right now, you know, in my life, if it's my career or my relationships, then you're just completely wide open to experience something, which is where miracles happen, you know, and that can be a very, very common. It becomes a continuous thing, you know, things to show up that you didn't chase after. Therefore, you don't have to beat yourself up if they don't come. And what does come unasked for is always so much better from that place, you know. And it might come with a momentary feeling of I want, but it's just kind of held very loosely, and it passes right through. Or a sense of inspiration to do something, you know.
Yeah, and like you said, you mentioned something with Ronald about time, and the whole body just heated up, because it was like, yeah, that's really true. Because when I just stay present, in the moment, and not think about how long something's going to take or how much time I have, I'm just so surprised at what comes. How things get done without thinking or doing anything. So I just want to thank you so much, because
it's very unusual to try to run a business from this place, you know, where you're not setting goals necessarily, you're not setting targets. I really had to switch this. You know, all my life I've been trained to run a business to set, you know, next month's forecast and next month's target. And, you know, when I don't do that now, it's just so much better than it's just to see what's going to show up anyway, when there's no thought filtering it, the manifestation, watering it down, you know.
Yeah, and like I said before, because there's so much in what you are teaching, and it's not so much remembering it all, it just pops up. Like I might find myself saying, well, I really don't know. Yeah. And really looking at that, because I don't know, and then all of a sudden knowing happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, thank you so much for everything you teach, because it's just really true.
Thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. Lovely.
Yeah, and not knowing how it all happened is it doesn't really matter. It's just that surrender, isn't it? Without really trying to surrender, it's just happening that way. Yeah. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Steve? Yep, Steve.
Yeah.
Hiya.
Hi, Helen. Are you all right?
I am. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
I'm glad you said you don't have to understand this when you talk. I know.
I still don't understand it now. If I tried to think about this stuff, like, you know.
But you know for a fact it's true. That's why I love listening. Yeah,
you see it play out in your life.
That's why I love listening to it. It's such conviction, and it always gives me a bit of a kick up the bum. But lately, last week I was saying there's a lot suffering with the fear and stuff. Gradually that's sort of eased away, and I've landed up sort of like flatlined, and then there's other stuff. Then it started sort of creeping back in from another direction. Things I thought I've dealt with started creeping back, and I'm saying, well, I've dealt with that. I'm like, oh, what that? am I suffering? Can I suffer? I'm doing all the right sort of things, but it just seems bumper. And then I was reading some. I was listening to you this morning on the Brownie Point. What was it now? That's the 4th week of the Dissolving the Ego course. I was listening to some of that stuff there, and I thought, bloody hell, you know, this is good stuff. You know, I've heard it. You know, but it was sort of going in a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And then I saw someone this afternoon digging drawers out, and I got from last course I did, and some of the things I'd written down about how I'd been and this and the other. I thought, I forgot. I feel like I've digressed, really. I'm digressing rather than going the other way. It's like I know all this, so I've known it anyway, and it's sort of gone. When I listen to you now, I think, oh, that's good. I thought what she's saying here. Like you say, it don't matter if you. I thought it was a good job because I'm not hearing that.
That's one of the reasons we record it too, so that we can go. Your mind, nobody's mind is going to want to hear this or want to take it in because it's so contradictory. You know, that nothing causes anything, ever. You know, that's just so 180 from traditional thinking. You know, but it's going in anyway. You know, as you've said, and it'll just to keep listening, just to keep reminding yourself, hearing it again and again and again. It is how we learn as the self. When it becomes familiar, it's accepted and acted upon. You know, we've got this safeguard that we don't act upon anything that's unfamiliar, so we have to hear it again and again, you know, which is a good thing. Otherwise, you know, we'd be acting on every silly idea that came through our mind. With no
I've missed half of what you just said then. Yeah. I'm sorry.
But you're aware of it, and the awareness heard everything. Right? The awareness heard it. It's going in there. It's going in there, don't worry. Just to see that I'm not
digressing then.
I keep drifting off, you know, to be able to notice I keep drifting off. You know, sometimes I'm talking to someone and they're nodding and I'm thinking, I'm not sure they're really listening, hearing what I'm saying. And I remember doing the same thing myself. I'd be like, hang on a minute.
It's ignorant, like, isn't it? It's ignorant normal, isn't it?
Well, none of us can help it. This is the whole point of this causality satsang, is our attention goes to the thinking. There's no choice. So you could be hearing the most important words being spoken to you. You know, God could show up right in front of you. This is how to get enlightened, Steve. And he'd be like, off with, you know, thoughts, because you've got no choice.
Some people are boring and you don't want to listen to them. I can understand why that goes, but I want to listen to what you're saying. I'm trying to listen. I'm still just going on.
Just to be aware of the drifting, that it's a subtle avoidance from mind. You'll begin to get in front of it. Just to see that it's happening. You know, and when you realize it's happened, you can just rewind the video on YouTube next time and listen to that bit again.
I do it a lot there. I'm always doing that. Yeah. I keep trying to rewind it.
Same for me. I had to sometimes, if I was watching a satsang with a teacher or listening to something, I had to stop every 5 minutes and get up and walk around and just remind myself to be present to what I was listening to. Otherwise, I'd be off thinking about what to cook for tea tomorrow night and what I need to get from the supermarket. And 5 minutes of this video has gone past and I didn't hear a single thing, you know. But it's going in somewhere, don't worry.
Take your word for it. I always do. Okay.
You do. Thank you. Lovely.
Yeah.
Sergio?
Oh, hi, Helen.
Hiya.
My question was...
You've muted yourself. Can't hear you, sorry. There we go.
Sorry.
Lovely.
Well, I was going to say that the question has been answered already, but taking this moment anyhow, like, and I think I asked you,
it never hurts to go through it again.
Right, but like when I'm listening to satsang or when I'm in front of you, like everything seems to happen so easily and so rapidly. But then again, when I'm like on my own and trying, I guess the word is trying, and that's why I'm not getting it. Right?
When are you apart from me? When are you not with me?
Well, I guess never apart. But
So
I guess
do we have to be you see what I'm getting at, what I'm poking at? Do we have to be looking each other in the eye for you to be with me? Is that what's causing this effortless state to appear? Or is it that something much bigger is happening where you're being your real self in that moment? You know, this idea, it may give you a temporary experience that, you know, when I'm sitting in satsang, I feel the effect of the presence of the teacher. But then you're also going to have to experience the opposite, you know, of the feeling disconnected then afterwards. And we all fall for it. I did for quite some time. But then I realized if the teacher isn't a human being anyway, the teacher is the noumenon, it is the self. You know, you're talking to yourself right now. So how can you ever be apart from me?
okay.
Mine's going, that's just crazy, right? Of course, you know, but it's just something to investigate, isn't it? I really looked at this. Am I ever apart from who I want to be with? Do I have to be sat in the room with someone to have the same effect, or even to be online with them? You know, it's really fun to investigate and break through this. You should be able to feel the same way all the time, because I am you. You know, I can't be doing anything to you to cause this state. That's the idea mind comes up with. But then it's disempowering you. That same thing must be available all the time. But we buy the idea too easily that it's only there in satsang or deep meditation or something. That's how it seems to be. Yeah. See if you can leave me. See if you can investigate if you can leave me, if we can be apart, and see what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste. Kena. Lovely.
Hi Helen. Hi everyone.
Hiya.
Sorry, it's a bit dark and the light's shining here, but
It's okay.
it's very hot in this room.
Me too. I'm like melting here.
So causality, really, the key message that I've kind of picked up from it this time round, listening to it, something different each time, was separateness, really, and really investigating if there's a want or a desire, no matter what it is. Really, it's all hinges on separateness.
If there is no separate being, can that separate being cause anything to ever happen? Has there actually ever been what's been going on? As mind-blowing as that is when that's assimilated, you know, it's just not true. You know, the legendary me that does all these actions that I'm seeing is causing my awakening, or causing me to fail to awaken, you know, whatever it is that we want. It doesn't really exist when you look for it. So, you know, can it be the cause of success or failure in anything that you want?
Yeah, I can. I think sometimes I'll ask questions to things, and mind will come up with answers like, well, "Of course, you know what you are, so why?" But I still get like this strong emotion that my mind says that, but it's not reflecting that in my emotions.
Your body's telling you the truth. Your mind's telling you what it thinks, and your body's telling you the truth in that moment that you feel. Yeah.
So then I get like, well, how do I question that then? So then I've been struggling then to figure out, because I'm asking the questions and my mind's just saying, well, of course.
As you ask the question, it will filter through all the levels of your being. So first it will filter out the nonsense in your mind. So you start to get answers that agree, you know, let's say if you're asking, is it true I'm not good enough? At first it's going to clear the thoughts in your mind and you start to get positive thoughts about it. And then if you keep asking until the negative emotion, the unworthiness or guilt or shame, whatever it is, has stopped happening, it'll clear the emotional level. And if you keep asking, it will change the way that it's manifesting, you know, the unworthiness in that moment. It'll work outwards to
Right.
Change your experience, change the trigger, whatever it is as well. You know, so if there's some negative emotion there, it's just a sign that that's the part that you're going through right now.
Right. No, that's helpful actually, because I've sometimes my mind, I think it's just resistance. I've kept questioning, but there's times where I've thought, well, I don't need to question because I know. But then I was like,
you'll know when you know, because you'll stop experiencing it and you'll stop feeling it. And your experiences will be confirming the opposite, that you are good enough. Or, you know, as an example, you know, and the negative emotion that corresponds with that experience will no longer be happening. So that's the point. You can take your foot off the gas then with the question. Mind can, oh God, that's going to take forever, you know, but not necessarily. You know,
yeah.
it's mind's just trying to deter you from. It thinks in terms of time, doesn't it, mind? But it can be quite a quick process when you realise it's just my determination with this question, my curiosity to actually find out.
And sometimes I'll say I've been asking a question lately, and I've started to feel a bit better, but there wasn't a thought. There wasn't so much a thought process behind it. There was just a bit of a shift in the emotions.
Yep.
Even from asking the question.
Yeah.
Is it
because the seed thought underneath has been starting to be your ability to believe that thought, that I'm not good enough in this example. You're starting to not be able to believe that at all. You're not allowing your thoughts or your emotions or your experience to tell you what you think and feel about yourself, which is what we all do as human beings. You know, there's some unworthiness. We agree that I'm unworthy, or something happens out there, I'm not good enough. Referencing this, look at this, it's happening here. You know, our mind is telling us. So the positive emotion starts to shift, it starts to appear, and it's not always a negative emotion. That's a sign that it's working through these, not really layers, but, you know, levels of manifestation. And then it begins to change your experience as well.
Yeah. So sometimes there might not be that thought process. It'll just be, because sometimes when I don't have that thought process, like I've figured something out, like I've not had an epiphany. I think, you know, sometimes I always think, oh.
this is the absence of the thoughts around something is the mind going silent. Because you're working directly with the emotion and the root cause of it all. You're not focusing on mind's thoughts about why you feel that way. You're just working on the actual, you know, the deeper question.
Yeah. Okay.
It's when I was questioning something like fear, oh, is it really true I'm not safe? I would stayed with the question until I no longer felt fear ever, and there was nothing happening in my experience to make me feel unsafe. You know, till my experiences were confirming my security. You know, and it's you may say this takes a long time, but we've been believing these thoughts for eons. Different bodies have come and gone, incarnations, you know, to our separate sense of someone. And we've been feeling, agreeing with these thoughts for a very long time. And it takes some consistency to overcome it, but you can. Once you've done this, it's gone forever. You'll never, ever be able to feel scared again. You know, it's worth or unworthy, or a sense of injustice or unfairness that comes with anger and things like that.
Okay.
Lovely.
That's
good
helpful.
question. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Ian and Maggie? We'll take Mike's question after, and then we'll leave it there for tonight. Okay. Ian and Maggie, are you?
Yeah, I can hear us.
Yep. Sorry.
Cool. I know that I don't always recognise the kind of good things that are going on around me sometimes. And so when you were talking...
I'm just going to be diplomatically quiet now.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. So when you were talking, I thought, wow, you know, that's happening, you know, a lot, what you were talking about. And what Ronald was saying about, I've been really like trying to stay with the idea that everything manifesting at the moment, in this moment, is exactly as it's supposed to be. And it's the highest end. Argue with what you want, that's what's happening at the moment. So that is perfect kind of thing. So I've been really trying to stay with that. And then, so we've had got a few changes going on with the household and stuff. And, you know, the mind was given a little bit of like, I'm not going to be able to have time to do the things I want to do. And I won't have the same kind of, one of my rooms might not be able to use and all this kind of stuff, you know. So when I was buying into that and them thoughts, you know, a little bit. And it was quite kind of resistant, and it was just like, you know, there was a lot of kind of, not a lot, but a bit of like, oh, you know, kind of resistance to it all and feeling pretty kind of ropey with it. And then once I stopped listening to my thoughts, I just kind of got on with life. I just got on with it. I just put the thought aside and said, I'm not just, you know. Funnily enough, I was able to do all the jobs that I was supposed to have been doing, plus the fact that, and the stuff that I wanted to do. Like, I've been writing my book a little bit, and I've been meditating and doing my shigo and all that kind of stuff. And magically enough, it's all just kind of happened when I get out of the way of it. So I was quite, like, when you were talking, I thought, oh, wow, that is kind of going on at the moment, you know. So I just thought I'd share that, really.
It's good. It's a recognition as well that whenever mind's thinking about a change that's happening in your circumstances, it always goes to the negative. It always says this change is for the worse, you know, and it cannot be that way. Sometimes it looks like it is, but manifestation is always expanding from more to become more. So when you can actually train yourself to get excited when it seems to fall apart or change in some way. I mean, nobody's ever gonna like be jumping around, woo, my life just, you know, fell apart somewhere. But the more mature you are in the process, further down the road, you can see this is something good happening. It has to be, because that's how reality works.
Yeah.
You know, everything's always expanding to be more. And this is the fulfillment of my desire actually occurring, even though it doesn't look like it. You know, so that's the way to not really listen. How do we just stop listening to thoughts? Is to know that it cannot be something bad that's coming. If we will look for how it is good, you'll see it. Or get out of the way of the thoughts, you know, like you said. And it's just, mind is just a bit of a doom and gloom merchant, isn't it? You know, it's just always negative expectations about everything.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more and more as this goes on, as I get deeper.
It's based on our remembrance of exchanges that didn't go our way before, but that's because we were expecting them to be a bad change. So we got exactly what we were expecting, unconsciously, of course. And then mind goes, well, see, I'm right to fear this change that's coming in the future because this is what's going on, you know.
Yeah.
When you sort of see through that, you go, hang on a minute, you start to get a little excited when something is changing in the manifestation.
I was actually managed to do that the last day or so, just this change that it's obviously for the better, and it's all good kind of thing, you know, because it wouldn't be happening otherwise.
Good, very good.
So yeah, again, just made, when you were talking, I just thought, wow, that's going on at the moment. That's great.
Yeah, excellent. And it's good that you've noticed it and acknowledged it.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Lovely. Last but not least is Mike.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
So I guess during the talk, a slight shift occurred here, and something around hearing that the desire of something coming is just the universe. Like the desire in here of wanting something is just the universe showing it's already moving in that direction or something, and then something happening, and then it's like awareness sort of clears some mental noise, and so there's just a much more clear seeing right now. There's no mic, the emptiness of this body that was ever going toward anything, and now there's just a more clear seeing of awareness as everything, including everyone talking on this satsang. But then checking in, the mind is now like bubbling like crazy, like trying to find meaning in it, trying to figure out like what's going on. It's like a little kettle like boiling, and the question like, what is going on? And it's trying to like find some meaning in all of this. I can't tell if it's just a feeling. So in the past, attention has gone to that so much, that the mind then just deadens the entire experience by trying to find meaning in it and thought. And so I'm just trying to, I guess, just go along with the flow. I'm not exactly sure now.
We have a big shift or something falls away. Immediately mind is going to try to, all right, what does that mean now for me? Like how do I, and it's immediately into action, isn't it? Trying to use it as a reference point for further work. Yeah. If you can just sort of resist that time, I'll just let it do its thing and go, I don't need to know really. It'll spontaneously manifest in my thoughts and actions if I just let it be. Mind is going to grapple more and more with understanding things like causality, because they're in the truth is not two, is it? And mind can only function in two, in division. So it's not that you ignore it per se, it's just not. There's no way to make a 3-year-old understand quantum physics. Is that there's just no way to make that happen.
Yeah, it's the realization that it's just going to try to understand it with thought and labels and stories anyway. It's just
and it will conceptualize it best it can. And I'm sure wherever my mind is, it's still trying to do that somewhere. It's just probably talking away. I really don't get this, but it's just less and less important. Not wrong, but just less and less. I'd like to be the evidence of this shift rather than to understand it. It's a fundamental way of orienting yourself, isn't it? I can either come to understand this or I can live it. And I'm trying to get my mind to understand it or to give it to my mind. It's going to be a lengthy process.
Yeah, when I've gone down that road a few times before, it just leads nowhere. It just leads nowhere, really.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's so it's just like a reorienting. Would I rather understand it in the mind, or would I rather just be it and live it?
An understanding may come in the mind, but it'll come spontaneously as an epiphany without I need to figure this outness, It'll just be, right, some insight or some flash rather than from the inside out, rather than some efforting to try to understand. We're not discounting mind. We're just not expecting it to digest this, and then you're immediately being then what you've seen. Even if you don't know what you've seen, you're being it because you're not trying to do anything with it then.
Yeah, and the understanding, just have trust and faith that the understanding will come as it needs to come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Lovely. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So we'll leave it there for tonight. Just a reminder that the next satsang is on Sunday at 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So it's for the US Sangha, for anyone that's in a time zone behind the UK, hopefully. If you can join us then, all are welcome, but if you can join us then, I'll see you then. Thank you. Namaste.